Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Josh Steimle with us. Josh is maximizing human potential through entrepreneurship, believes that founders will save the world. I too. He starts businesses and find partners to run these businesses, been featured various times on Wall Street Journal, USA Today as a best-selling author, as a book coach, trail runner, skater, husband, dad, founder, and partner at Pendo Partners, located in Phoenix, Arizona, founder as well at MWI, and yeah, published author, research assistant. He's a bunch of things, cool guy, cool human being. We're going to have fun today. Podpar.com is presenting that one. That's my podcasting company. If you want to start, scale, monetize your podcast, go to podpar.com. Josh, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks so much for having me on, Charles. Whenever somebody asks me what I'm up to, I don't know where to start because there are too many irons in the fire. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a kid. Many of us entrepreneurs have ADHD. And my parents didn't tell me about it, though, until I was in my 30s. And once they told me, I thought, oh, now everything makes sense. I've always got 100 ideas that I want to execute and no time. And so I'm always scrambling and running around. And a few years ago, I met a guy who's also an entrepreneur running a bunch of businesses. And I asked him, I said, how are you doing it? How are you running all these businesses? His name's Blake Hansen. And he said, well, I have this partnership model where I start businesses and then I bring in partners to run them. And I thought, that's what I need. I love starting businesses. I hate running them, but I love starting them and I love owning them. I just don't love the day to day. And so that's what I started migrating towards, was creating this holding company, Pendo Partners. And then we own several companies and we're starting more and acquiring others. And this allows me to live my dream, which is to start and own a lot of businesses and to get rid of my nightmare, which is actually running the businesses, because there are other people out there who can do that better than I can, and they love doing it. So I let them.
So you're 0 to 1 type of guy, and then you're trying to find 1 to 10 types of human beings which can go into deep work, into focus.
Exactly. I love the risk and chaos of starting something, but as soon as it becomes halfway predictable, as soon as it's about systems and processes and HR and paperwork and that stuff, really, once we get to about 10 people, that's where I'm like, this isn't my thing anymore.
So your fund, who do you raise from? And then what's your thesis in terms of the startups you pick?
We've raised funding in the past, both debt and equity. Right now, we're entirely self-funded. The whole philosophy behind the way that we run this business is to use profits from the first company to plow into the second one. Then you have two profitable companies and use those profits to get the third one going. And you create this cycle where the profits increase with every business that you start or acquire. And then that gets rolled into starting larger businesses that are more capital intensive. So that's how we fund things.
And how long does a vision such as this one take to launch the more capital intensive businesses? 10 years?
No, I mean, now I'm an amateur at this. So we're getting started. And I'm also trying to transition from the old way of doing business, which wasn't this way. It's really better to look at my friend Blake Hansen as a case study, or Nick Huber is another person that you can look at. These are people who have succeeded in starting multiple businesses, 5, 10, 15, 20 businesses, and they've really got an engine going. So Blake Hansen, he really, I would say, started on this path fewer than 10 years ago, and now he's up into the hundreds of millions in terms of revenue, and he's got construction businesses, he's got a cement company, he's got real estate. So he's got his hands in a lot of things. Nick Huber, I don't know how much revenue he's doing, but I know he started a business 8 months ago, and he sent out an email the other day that they're up to 165,000 per month that they're bringing in. and it's already profitable, kicking off 40 or 50 grand in profits every month. So it can happen pretty quickly, but of course, entrepreneurship's always iffy, and sometimes things work out, sometimes it doesn't.
Right, not bullish on his last business, like outsourcing Filipino. I mean, that's so old. So I would love to dig out and unveil the curtain, like how precisely he got that much revenue. Usually it's great sales and marketing. Would love to learn about his system there, but I think that's dying. AI is replacing all of that.
Yep. He's definitely got some challenges. The business that I'm referring to is his SEO business, which is all about link building, which also we've got Google rolling out GSE this year. There are a lot of changes there. So we'll see if that business lasts another 24 months.
Interesting. Not bullish on this one either. I think ChatGPT is the new Google. I don't think people are gonna adapt that quick to that, like most people are afraid of ChatGPT, but yeah, it's definitely getting there. Now, with your own companies, what niches, segments, verticals are you interested in?
So we have two phases. Phase one is service businesses that can support the other businesses. So my background's primarily marketing. So it's easiest for me to get started with marketing companies. So we have my marketing agency that I started 20 years ago and ran the wrong way for most of that time and am now trying to fix it. But the marketing agency, we're a full service marketing agency. So we're doing SEO, PPC, content, and video, a bunch of different things there. That business is more or less self-sustaining and stable. We have a PR firm that we broke out of that about 2 years ago. So we do guaranteed placements in Forbes Inc., Entrepreneur, other types of publications. A couple of years ago, I started a book coaching and publishing company. So we have a hybrid publishing company to publish my books and other people's books. And then we also do book coaching, walking entrepreneurs through the process of writing a book and then leveraging that to grow their business. So a lot of the companies that I've started have to do with marketing or promotion or PR, personal branding, but things around promotion. And then the idea is to get into more traditional industries like self-storage, for example, and then we can leverage these other businesses to help that business grow faster.
Bullish on the book one, especially if it uses GPT to help in various processes, whether it's in the outline or taking some type of author's voice. I have one of my runs in that one too. Bullish on your podcast one and potentially bullish on your PR one. I hate modern PR firms. I think they're full of shit. I also don't think they add a lot of value. How can you guarantee an article on Forbes though? You have like a membership with them, or how does that work?
No, it's nothing like that. It's not a relationship with Forbes. It's a relationship with writers at Forbes. And so the whole PR industry is based on relationships. If a PR firm knows a writer at a publication, then they can go to that writer and say, hey, I've got a client. I think they'd be a great fit. Would you be willing to write an article about them? And because they're buddies, the writer says, sure, yeah, I'd be happy to take a look and maybe write an article. It's just all about that relationship. So the PR industry is all about forming relationships and then reselling those relationships to clients. And the problem with the PR industry is that traditionally you get people on these retainers. So you go to a PR firm, they'll sign you up for 10 or 20 or $50,000 a month, and they'll say, we're going to go out there and we're going to pitch your story to all these different publications. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know which publication you're going to end up in. You don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't know what you're ultimately going to pay. And so you get clients coming back and saying, I paid this PR firm for an entire year. I wasted $240,000 and I got nothing out of it. And those are the problems we're trying to fix at Canvas. Everything's guaranteed. So you know when you're going to get it. It's guaranteed within 90 days. Everything's a flat fee per placement. So you know exactly what you're going to pay for what you get. And we let the clients choose the publication. So you know exactly what you're going to get. So clients come to us and they say, I want to be in Forbes. How much is it? We give them a price. We guarantee it within 90 days, and then we get it done. And then they are on their merry way. They know what they're paying.
Beautiful.
They know when they get it. So it's a really simple, straightforward transaction. We're kind of like a vending machine for PR in a sense. And we can do it, we can guarantee it because we have these relationships with writers where we've worked with them so much that we know if we have a client that's the right fit, they're going to take an article and publish about that client of ours.
So
And
that's
every
your
once in a
moat.
while, I mean, 1% of the time, it doesn't work out and we give the client a refund.
Interesting. Love that. Your ideas, where do you get them from and how do you put them to the test?
I try to stick to some criteria. In the past, a lot of my ideas were just things that I was interested in. So I was into triathlon. So I think, hey, I want to start a triathlon gym. Nobody really has a gym focused on triathletes. That would be cool to have a gym that's completely optimized around the triathlon experience. That's just something that I want. And so then I start thinking, well, gee, this could be a business idea. It's the same with, I'm starting a school right now called Skate School. It's for skateboarders. And I look at myself growing up as a skateboarder and I think, what's the school, the dream school that I would have wanted to go to? And now I have a 13-year-old son who also skates. So I'm starting this for him, but also because it's something I'm interested in. Now, is that the best business idea? Probably not. Maybe it can be profitable. It's not $1 billion idea. And so I try to look at other criteria like, can this be $1 billion idea? Can this be something really big? How profitable is this going to be? How fast can it cash flow? How fast can I take profits from that and contribute it to something else or reinvest it to grow this business even faster? So I'm looking at a lot of different criteria, but ultimately it still comes back to that emotional tie-in that it's got to be something that I'm interested in. Now, the thing is, I'm interested in everything. So even self-storage, which is the most boring business out there, it's a box-shaped building with box-shaped rooms, and then you fill those rooms with boxes. It's just math. It's a pure math business. It's not very exciting until you get involved in it, which my marketing agency, we got involved about 10 years in the self-storage industry, building websites for self-storage companies. And once you get into it, you're like, this is actually kind of a fascinating business to see how you can optimize this to the nth degree. And there's a lot of interesting stuff about it. So uh, it's a combination of all those factors: money, cash flow, profitability, and ultimately that emotional connection.
And that box business, don't you think there's going to be some competition in there that's going to make the economics no longer viable? Or in storage, I never thought of storing my stuff. I know my dad has his stuff stored or had his stuff stored at some point of his life. I guess it's more popular in cities, big cities with like small apartments where you don't have place to store stuff. So don't you think that's gonna remove your moat? Or is it like you just do your market research and you find hotspots?
It's an amazing business. And part of me doesn't get it because I have never once in my life bought self-storage. But then I'll go talk to somebody and they'll say, oh, I've had 6 units rented out for the last 10 years and I've been paying $500 a month for 10 years across all these units. And I think, why don't you
Man,
get rid
that's
of that
dumb.
stuff? Are you even using this stuff? Why do you need so much storage space? But there are a lot of people out there who just put it in storage. I mean, and it might be $400 worth of IKEA furniture and they're paying $100 a month and they'll leave it in there for 2 years and end up paying thousands of dollars to save $400 of cheap furniture. People store all sorts of things that don't make sense, but there are a lot of people who store stuff and they have to have self-storage. So you've got like the guy who's a DJ and he has all his speakers and his setup and it's on a trailer and he wants to put it somewhere secure and he doesn't want to put it in his own garage. So it's part of his business. There's so many different uses for it, and it's a very recession proof business. When there's a recession, it actually sometimes grows. And then when the recession's over, it grows more. When there's an economic downturn, it does really well. It's protected from a lot of the fallout. You look back over the last 50 years, there's like one time where it kind of went flat and kind of slowed down. And I mean, there's ups and downs, but it's always growing.
And how do you decide to go physical that way vs my preferred digital way, build everything online, everything remote, and no need to show up physically? What was your thought process behind that one?
Again, part of this was I got exposed to the industry coincidentally, and then I saw how interesting it was. But the other thing is, everybody I know who has made a lot of money is somehow involved in real estate. And a lot of the people that I know have made money in technology or venture capital, different ways, they all get into real estate eventually. They're always putting their money in real estate. And there's something to be said for tangible real estate. It isn't going anywhere. It's relatively stable. Uh, I mean, I think the only argument against real estate is the one that Michael Saylor, this Bitcoin fanatic, has made. I'm a Bitcoin fanatic too, but I mean, he talks about the long-term horizon of 100 years and what the best investments are, and he's convinced everybody should just plow all their money into Bitcoin. And I think there's a case to be made for that. But at the same time, I see what a lot of my friends are doing in real estate, and I'm like, I want a piece of that. I want to get involved in that. And so that's what interests me.
Right. And what do you do with the opportunity cost? Because I'm also in various directions, but all of these businesses that I'm starting, they all link to one another, creating this ecosystem. In the end, seems that there's no real way to link the real estate one with the PR one, or maybe I mean it's just pure money flow to be invested in these, and they're very low maintenance.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, self-storage can be an entirely, I don't want to say entirely, but it can be, you can automate everything about self-storage. So you can make it so people self-check in, they can buy the storage, reserve the storage on their phone, check in automatically, get through the gate, use an app to open the door on their storage facility. So you can automate a lot of the process so that you don't have to have a human being on premises or anything like that. But as far as the connection between self-storage and my other businesses like PR and such, a lot of the connection is just I have these other businesses that I can leverage to promote. But in this specific case with self-storage, my marketing agency has 10 years experience filling up these facilities. And that's the hardest part, is filling them up. It's easy to build them. That's slam dunk easy. Not much has changed about that in 30 or 40 years. But the challenge is always, how do we fill up a new facility? And that's what my agency has specific expertise doing. The only thing is we want to leverage it now to fill up our own facilities versus filling up all our clients' facilities.
What is your grand master plan? What do you want to accomplish in the next couple of decades?
I want to create an entity that is going to outlive me by a long shot. So I'm looking at a 500-year time horizon, saying, where is my business going to be in 500 years? I want it to be growing. I want it to be creating new businesses on its own. And so I've got a few more decades to work on this. How do I get this started so that after I die, it keeps on running, keeps on growing, keeps on creating new businesses? And how do I create a culture that is the kind of culture that I want? When we started out, part of my introduction that you gave was about maximizing human potential. That's the thing that really motivates me. The money, that's all going to go. I'm going to die. I can't take it with me. I can't even use that much of it in this life. So the money is just a means to an end to create this engine. What's exciting to me is changing people. If I change my bank account, what's that really worth to me? But if I can change a human life, that's amazing. That's a miracle. That's huge. And if I can use businesses to create a culture that brings people in and changes their lives and puts them on a different trajectory, a better trajectory, so that they have an improved quality of life, to me, that's what makes all this entrepreneurship and business building exciting. And I want that to continue on for the next few hundred years based on something that I build today.
Right. And while you're alive, what do you feel is fucked up on this planet Earth? And how do you feel founders are going to solve that?
um, what's messed up is the short-term versus long-term perspective. Almost every single problem in this world is a problem of short-term perspective. We're looking at tomorrow, next week, maybe next year, and we're not thinking about 5 years, 10 years, 50, 100, 500 years. What's fascinating to me is if you look at, and the problem with short-term is when we think short-term, we think selfishly. We think about ourselves, but the thing is, if you look long-term, selfishness and complete generosity or selflessness actually merge into the same thing. What's best for us in the long term is also what's best for everybody else in the long term. There's no difference between it. And so if you have this long-term perspective, you're going to do what's best for other people because it actually ends up being what's best for you, and vice versa. There is no difference. They're selflessness, selfishness, exactly the same thing if you extend your time horizon far enough. But when we think short term, it's like, well, what can I get today? Well, maybe the quick fix is I take something from somebody else. They're hurt, I'm benefited, but how long does that last? Might last a day. They come back, they shoot me, I get stuck in jail. If I'm only thinking a day at a time, I create all sorts of problems for myself when I create problems for other people. If I'm thinking 100 years, how do I build a business that gives value for the next 100 years? Everything I'm doing is going to be serving others so that people want to buy what my business has, and then my business will survive, and then everybody wins.
How can founders tackle these problems? Is it social entrepreneurship, or they should just pursue profits at all costs?
No, I mean, it's just, it has nothing to do with social versus antisocial. It has nothing to do with starting altruistic businesses. I mean, that's great. If people want to start B companies, B corporations, if they want to do nonprofits, that's great. It doesn't really matter. The the entrepreneur who starts a super profitable business that succeeds because it serves people's needs is a hero. That person is doing a great service to the world. They're helping the world just as much as anybody else out there. And the key really is this short-term versus long-term perspective so that you understand how you're really benefited by serving others. What it really comes down to in the end, though, is love. If a founder has love in their heart and they care about other people as they care about themselves, they're going to do the right things. If they don't have that love, then they're going to make bad decisions. And they'll think they're making decisions that are good for them, but really they're acting short-term and selfishly in a way that ends up hurting them in the long run. We've all seen it.
Trump, are you saying?
And a lot of other people out there.
And these other people out there don't try to lead a country, at least. What can AI solve? What can it not solve?
I've thought a little bit about this, and I'm not sure, but it seems to be, so Charles Penrose, I don't know what to call him. He worked with Stephen Hawking. He's still alive. Uh, Philosopher, quantum physics type guy. He said something I heard the other day that I found fascinating, which is he said, human understanding, human consciousness is non-computational. There's some element of what goes on in our brains and our thought processes that cannot be duplicated through computers. And AI is 100% computational. Some of us want to believe that there's some element of consciousness that will arise from AI, but I think it's all computational. And so it's human understanding, human consciousness that can't be duplicated, but there's so much of what we spend our time on that can be duplicated with AI, right? So what do we end up with in the end? There's some level of creativity, there's some level of taking two things that don't seem to be related to each other and combining them and figuring out how to create value out of that, that I'm not sure AI can entirely get. Certainly not in the short term. I'm not sure it will ever get there. And that's what I look at as really the place for long-term opportunity, because there's so many businesses that AI will be able to 100% automate, which is great. But there are other aspects that I'm not sure it will get. Here's the one thing that AI will never get, which is it can't replace human relationship. For all the talk about online friends, AI friends, all this stuff, there is no replacement for human to human interaction. As much as people are going to try to create it, there's always going to be something missing there. There's something that human beings will sense is missing in any sort of automated relationship. And there is value there. There is business opportunity there. And there is something that I don't believe can ever be replaced by something that's artificial, no matter how intelligent it seems to be.
Interesting. Josh, where can people find out more about you?
JoshSteimle.com, JoshSteimle.com.